The Jackson Public School meeting is now called to order. Board, we have 3 members present. We have 2 on the phone and 1 absent. Therefore, we have a quorum. We have all had an opportunity to review the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as printed?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No nays. There being none, the motion is approved. We have all had an opportunity to review the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the October 3rd, 2023 regular board meeting and October the 10th, 2023 special board meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No nays. There being none, the motion is approved. Now, the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Hilliard. Good evening, board members, and to all of our team members and community members and scholars, all of those who join us here this evening. We'll begin, as we typically do, with some highlights from all around JPS.
They are talented and empowered teachers who demonstrate a high commitment to student achievement.
Recognized and celebrated for their dedication and commitment to transforming lives through excellence in education.
My educators. Without you, there would be no me.
A shout out to Ask for More Jackson for asking the question, where are the outstanding educators?
I chose to work with the exceptional education population because there were so many of our children that were being told what they could not do.
Several JPS educators were honored by Ask for More Jackson and the Community Foundation for Mississippi.
The mission of the Community Foundation is to connect people who care about things with folks who do the things they care about.
Who presented awards to those recognized as JPS's 2023 Outstanding Educators.
Teaching is not an easy job, but I strive daily to give it my all.
I started building a list of colleges that I want to apply to at the end of last year.
Her dedication and hard work pays off in a big way for Gem Hill High School scholar Dana Bolden.
Scholarships to Ivy League schools, to Drake University. That's a testament to the hard work of Jackson Public Schools.
Dana Bolden received offers of over $1 million in academic scholarships.
Keep applying to the schools. Keep getting the money. Do your FAFSA. Make sure you and your parents do everything that you need to do.
Apply to all of them. I've applied to probably 60 and got accepted to 34 so far, and I have a lot more coming.
If you have fewer scholars in the building, the cost per student is higher.
Parents, family members, and many more attended the first of 4 scheduled JPS Town Hall meetings.
Take a step back and look at our opportunities to really increase our competitive edge.
Attendees had the opportunity to hear a bold vision about the future of JPS schools.
Are we prepared to sell or lease or perhaps even raise a building?
Town hall attendees had an opportunity to ask questions.
Pull some parents in, pull some community leaders in.
If people are moving out of Jackson, he can't leave all the schools open. He has to stop and close some schools up.
Dr. Eric L. Green presented his optimization plan, addressing the current financial state of JPS schools and how best to move forward, eliminating debt and still providing exceptional education to scholars.
The goal is to create some savings so that we can reinvest in smart ways in other places.
Some parents and citizens are speaking out about the district's optimization plan.
I'm a product of Jackson Public Schools. We have a lot of buildings in the city that the district is spending a lot of resources on. It's really important that we harness those resources to do what's best for our children and the families that they come from.
I understand the feelings, the emotional
ties to a lot of our schools. But we have to think about it in terms of business. We are in the business of educating students. We are in the business of education.
The next community meeting will take place Monday, October 30th at Callaway High, located at 601 Beasley Road from 6 p.m. till 7:30 p.m. Please visit our website at jackson.k12.ms.us. Follow us on Facebook at Jackson Public Schools, on Instagram at JPS Student Voices, on Twitter at JPS District, Comcast channels 18 and 19, and YouTube at youtube.com/JPSITV.
I want to thank our team, as always, for their work on producing those highlights for us. Board members and to the entire JPS community, I do want to provide a few updates or some additional remarks with regard to our optimization plan. The plan will help us, as I've stated and as we've shared previously, will help us to reinvest into our remaining schools and to ensure that all of our scholars learn in a safe and functioning and vibrant learning environment. I do want to stress that the plan was developed in response to our continued and dramatic enrollment decline, as well as some of the current facility conditions that we've heard lots about over the years and, you know, have gotten a lot of feedback on several of our schools and some of the challenges there, as well as the high cost of those required repairs. Performance, board members and to our community members, performance was not a criterion used to identify those schools. I'll say it again, performance, academic performance or any other performance measures, that was not used, that was not a criterion used to identify the schools. It was all about the cost of running those schools with declining enrollment and the major renovations necessary to reinvest in those schools. At the same time, I do want to state again, as I've stated previously, that our performance, the performance of the schools has little to do with the building itself and everything to do with the educators and with the scholars who are putting in the hard work to achieve at high levels. Our scholars, our teachers, administrators, they're the keys to the success wherever they're operating, whether it's in Building A or Building B. And I want to thank those scholars and parents and team members and community members, all of those who have shared their feedback with us thus far. They've given us lots to consider, and I'm confident that our final set of recommendations will be stronger as a result of their engagement. We will host additional community forums, as you've heard there on the highlights reel, to discuss the optimization plan, and those dates, the coming dates as scheduled, are October the 30th at Callaway High School, November the 6th at Provine High School, and November the 14th at Murrah High School. Once we've gathered and considered all of the feedback from various stakeholders and reviewed the needs of our district and all of the buildings that we have, and as well reconsidered all the viable options. Again, I'll say viable options for moving forward. We'll present a final set of recommendations to the board on December the 5th. And so we've got a little bit of time between now and then. We've got 3 more formal scheduled community engagement sessions. We're also developing some other smaller group sessions with various organizations here in the city. And so we're looking forward to the continued engagement on that subject, and we know that, again, at the end of it all, we'll have a stronger set of recommendations to the board as a result of that engagement. And now, board members, you'll recall, hopefully you'll recall that in a previous board meeting we discussed a recommendation to issue bonds of $57 million, or up to $57 million, as opposed to the $30 million that we originally presented to you. And I wanted to provide a little more clarity on that matter. So according to the Mississippi Code section 3759-111, it limits all debt issuances to 20 years, with the exception of transportation notes. So that code again is 3759-111, and it limits all debt issuances to 20 years with the exception of transportation notes. That plus the current value of our mills, and the 3 mil note, the current value is about $3.2 million. Given those two limitations or conditions, it's impossible for us to issue a bond of $57 million at this time. So our recommendation remains roughly the same. We were talking about $30 million. They worked the numbers again, and looks like we could do $34.5 million for 15 years, using 100% of the $3.2 million that I already mentioned, that our annual notes, the value of our annual notes, the value of our notes annually. And so just want to come back around to you. I know we had some conversation of why not, go for the $57 million if that's an option to us. When we went back to our folks and reviewed the conditions, we're actually limited to that amount in the 20 years. And so what we could do is, and will do, is to continue to evaluate our options over the next few years. We'll have some of the notes that sunset that will close out, and so we may have some additional opportunities to go back and issue the remaining 22.5. But that's something that we'll be reviewing over time, and we'll come back to you if there's an opportunity for us to seize some of that additional money. And as we've discussed previously, again, the plan is to utilize those dollars to reinvest in our buildings and make sure that we've got the facilities, both the learning facilities and athletic or arts facilities. All right. Again, board members, you might recall that the Office of the General Counsel has presented for your approval several trips to for our scholars to attend the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. Several of our scholars have visited the museum, and we have some representatives here to share with us their experiences and reflections. Attorney Harris will now join us to say a little more about those trips to the museum and to introduce our representatives this evening. Attorney Harris.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Good evening, board members and Jackson Public Schools community. As Dr. Green stated, we have been approving several grants from the Equal Justice Initiative that have allowed our scholars the opportunity to visit the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. So what I will do now is tell you just a little bit about what the museum offers, and then I will invite Ms. Buchanan and other representatives up from CDC where the scholars were presented. And board members, what is in front of you are some typed scholar reflections from some of the trips that we have been approving and they have gone on, as well as some recommended readings on racial justice from the Equal Justice Initiative that you can view at your leisure. Okay. So the Legacy Museum offers a powerful, immersive journey through America's history of racial injustice. It is housed on the site of a cotton warehouse where enslaved black people were forced to labor in bondage. And the Legacy Museum tells a story of slavery in America and its legacy through interactive media, first-person narratives, world-class art, and data-rich exhibits. People are able to travel through a comprehensive history of the destructive violence that shaped our nation, from the slave trade to the era of Jim Crow and racial terror lynchings to our current mass incarceration crisis, and find inspiration in the soaring reflection space and the world-class art gallery. So now we'll invite Ms. Buchanan up, Ms. Deason, and the CDC is also led by Dr. Cook, who's in the audience as well.
Good evening. Protocol has already been established, so I'll just kind of give you a little bit about how the scholarship got started. So I'm a Donors Choose ambassador, and things that I can't get for my classroom, I write little mini grants, they call them. So in writing this grant, Equal Justice Initiative invited me to purchase some of their material for my students. So I saw that they had Just Mercy, and I heard about the movie, but I'd never seen it at that time. So I was able to fund Just Mercy and a couple of other books. At this time, the students were transitioning from COVID to school, you know, so I was able to give them the book. They would have to read chapters and do reports on the chapters. So that's how they were graded during COVID. So at the end of that semester, the attorney for Equal Justice Initiative, Ms. Jacqueline Peace, called me, and she said, Mrs. Buchanan, and I was like, yes. And she said, I would like to offer you a scholarship to bring your students to the Legacy Museum. And I said, yes. And she said, well, it's in Montgomery, Alabama. And then my thoughts started wandering, okay, how am I going to get students to Montgomery, Alabama? And so I asked her, and she said, well, we're going to pay for the trip. It's an all-expense-paid trip for you since you're the first one from Mississippi that got this grant. She said, we're offering it to you in hopes that giving it to you, we can get more schools from Mississippi. So we did. I was so excited. I went in and talked to Dr. Cook, and Dr. Cook said, well, we got to take it before the board, and it may be all summer. It was coming up to the summer. So Dr. Cook said, well, once we present it to the board, we'll see where it goes. So he talked with Attorney Peace, and that's what she said. So all summer, I'm just contemplating how we're going to do this, So when we got back, she had already sent me the information for the scholarship. And I'm like, it must be a God. I know there's a God. So she called back and said, I'm giving you transportation, we're going to feed you, and we're going to pay your to go in the museums. So we weren't out of any money. Our first group, actually, that's our first group. So what they did, they sent me a preparation pack to talk to the students about where they were going, the impact that it would have on them, because, you know, they hadn't talked about a lot of mass incarceration and slave trade or anything like that. So it was, if you haven't been, that's a trip you need to take. When I say touches deep down in your soul, it touches you. So I just encourage all of you, and we've taken 3 trips there, all expense paid, 3 trips, and actually in the spring we have another trip coming up. So I apologize for the scholars not being here, but because it was kind of a short notice, but there's nothing that they can't say, that I can't say, and we have it in reflection. So Ms. Deason is going to read one of the scholars' true reflection of her trip.
Amen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me? I'm going to read one reflection. This is my day in Montgomery, Alabama. When we first made it there, our first tour guide made our arrival fun. He drove and explained everything that was around us. He joked with us to keep us entertained, and he showed us where Rosa Parks was arrested at the bus station. He showed us the waterfall and the streets and the people marched on, and he also showed us the building with the casket on top of the building. And she reflected she could not remember who the casket was of, but she does remember the casket, so she can go back and reflect on that later. When we went inside the museum, the food place beside the park we went in smelled so good, but we didn't eat there. It just smelled so good. When we first entered the museum, I liked the waves of the water screen that they had. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is amazing and so soothing to watch. I want something like that in my room. I was too interested in the way it was than reading it, but we didn't have much time to really read much, and I wanted to see through the whole museum. The next part where we went, we had to walk through the display where they had many heads displayed with chains and things all around their necks. And the way we were being carried, the way they were being carried from different places. The other part that was really interesting to me was when we had to walk up to the jail cells and innocent people and children were placed. I read some children were put into jail sentences for life. They put out projections of the people and the children that were in the jail. So when you walked up to the cell, they talked to us and they told us how they were treated. The two young brothers that they were locked up were very emotional. Hello, Mommy. Have you seen our Mommy? Next, I went to the part where they had the jelly beans in the jars with questions on the paper. And I asked the lady if it was a game, and she told me, you can say that, but back then, in order to leave, you had to tell the exact number that was in the jar. For instance, I couldn't leave until I could tell how many seeds were in a watermelon. I was like, wow. I picked up the paper and I took a look for myself. The paper asked the weirdest questions, and it said at the very top, in bold letters, in order to register in this state, you had to answer each question with the correct answer. I remember 3 questions. The paper said that really amazed me. The first question was how many seeds were in the watermelon? And I'm like, different watermelons have different seeds, amounts of seeds. Some watermelons have no seeds. The second question was how many windows were in the White House in Washington, D.C.? And I'm like, how are we supposed to know? And who just thinks about this? The last question that I remember was about the jar of jelly beans that was in front of me, asking how many jelly beans were in it. My guess was about 300 to 350, but I really couldn't tell. Laugh out loud. Coming from there, I went to the seating where we would pick up the phones and listen to some of the inmates that were falsely accused and put into jail. One man that was out in jail for defending himself against the police was put in jail when he was 17 and sentenced to life, so he looked like in his 50s. One thing that stood out to me was his hand. He only had his thumb on his right hand. He didn't explain what happened to it, though. After that were the jars of soil, where each victim labeled on it to tell where they had been brutally assaulted or killed. After that, it was the people's mug shots of the bus boycott that were arrested. I really enjoyed myself, and the ending where most everyone's picture was at, but not many, and the ceiling surrounding it gave off how beautiful and inspirational the whole museum was.
Thank you. And that's just one of many scholars. Because after we visit the museum, they have to come back and do a report of their reflections. How did it make them feel? What did you see that stood out to you? You know, there are several questions that they have to answer in their reports. So like I said, if you haven't been, I encourage each one of you, and I encourage the schools that have the scholarships to go ahead and take their students. It's very, very rewarding. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Buchanan, and board members, we look forward to bringing you more grants to approve and more scholar reflections to review. Thank you, Dr. Grant.
I just want to commend you, Attorney Harris. This doesn't fall neatly in your job description, and yet you've taken this on as a champion in partnership with our colleagues throughout the schools. Have we had each of the schools to go yet? Not most have gone, but now the high schools, I mean, right. most of the high schools, not all of them, but we're working on that. And thank you just for your partnership and liaising with the folks from the museum. And board members, I'll just put in a plug. We're looking to get a board member and senior team trip to the museum for those of us who have not visited. We do want to make sure that we make that available to us. Last thing I'll say about this is I was so excited when I first learned that that you all were seeking this trip and this opportunity. And I actually hadn't heard that story about how you got there, how you made that connection from the Donors Choose to them saying, hey, whoa, maybe you'd like to do this. And so I just appreciate the fact that you were open to the experience. And there again, I don't know that it necessarily fits so neatly in the curriculum or the content that you're working on. It's early childhood, correct? Right? And at the same time, like this understanding that we've got to be clear-eyed about the world around us. And we've got to help our scholars to develop as whole people and not just in a particular content area. And so thank you for your vision for it and for helping to bring our district along. Your spark created all of what's happening across the district with regard to the museum. And frankly, it's caused me to think more critically about other opportunities for us inside and outside of the classroom with regard to equity issues and history, and just being really clear with ourselves and with anyone else who might be listening that we're not shying away from history and we're not shying away from realities, and want to ensure that our scholars get what they need to move in the world and make a difference. So again, thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. And lastly, board members, tonight we have some champions in our midst. You feel good, don't you? Yeah, all tingly inside. The Lanier High School girls volleyball team is the 2023 Mississippi High School Athletics Association 6-4A champion. Amen. Now please join me in welcoming head coach Jonas James Jr., who will introduce these amazing scholar athletes. Coach, and I think we have another Lanier type in here, Dr. Bradley. You can't beat Dr. Bradley bragging on her babies. If you're not doing what she does, you're not really a principal, huh?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Dr. Green, Superintendent. Ms. Thomas, Assistant Superintendent High School. Dr. Seavet, board members. I am Valerie Bradley, Principal, Lanier Junior Senior High School. I have to remember to always say that.
That's right.
Yes. Better known as 833 Nation. And y'all drive by at night and see the lights. We leave the lights on for everybody. Drive by at night. I bring you greetings and well wishes. And we are really humbled and most appreciative that you all are helping us to recognize the hard work of our girls. So please give it up again for our girls. And they are being presented with a certificate. Everybody will get this. And it reads Jackson Public Schools Certificate of Achievement. This certificate is presented to, and it'll have each girl's name on it, Jackson Public Schools regular board meeting, October 17, 2023. Eric L. Green, Superintendent. Thank you, Dr. Green. At this time, I'll let Jonas James, and y'all, he made me dress up. And he said we needed to look alike, so that's why we look alike.
Got to coordinate.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It was a pleasure to be here before you today, and I thank y'all so much for helping me celebrate my young ladies of the hard work that they did, the fruits of their labor. Not only are they good volleyball players, I want you to know that they got report cards today, and 10 of my girls are on honor roll.
Awesome.
And these are my young ladies, starting with Captain Izaria Wall. When I call your name, please come up. Izaria Wall. Madison Dixon. LaKayla Lewis. Michaela Cole. Patrice Wells. Caitlin Griffin. Tiani Taylor. Marielle Forbes. Katoria Champion. Shyla Smith. Jalea Jones. Kaylin Ramsey. Amaya Lattimore. Ariana Dancy. Thank y'all so much for celebrating these young ladies. We really, really appreciate y'all.
Awesome.
Oh, this is so wonderful. Congratulations, ladies. Congratulations. Coach James, Principal Bradley, to the entire, who do we have here from 833? Who else do we have here? Y'all come on, stand on up. Let us see you. Congratulations. So I will be honest, board members, I hadn't been keeping up. There's a whole team that makes all of this happen, and so I hadn't been keeping up that they were coming this evening. But on the news last night, and I think again this morning, I was seeing all of these teams that were winning, these collegiate teams, women's volleyball teams, who were just dominating. And I was watching just the some of the interviews and some of their moves. I don't have all the language. I know Spike, but that's all I know. But they were killing it, dominating. And so when I realized you all were coming here this evening and just thinking about where this sport can take you and the opportunities that you already are starting to create for yourselves, and of course, these loving educators for you, it's like, listen, don't miss your blessing. This could be that pathway. How many of you are thinking about playing on the collegiate level? Anybody thinking about playing on the collegiate level? Man, listen, kudos to you, and you already have a name, so you can say, hey, I was on the championship team at Lanier.
Right.
Let me in and pay my way.
That's right.
Might just work just like that. Let me in and pay my way. So kudos again to you. Y'all make me so proud. Make us so proud. Let's give them one more round of applause. Champions. Let's see who else is going to bring home a championship trophy. That concludes all of my remarks for this evening. Mrs. Hilliard, thank you so much for indulging us, and thank you again for all of those who joined us to celebrate and acknowledge our scholars and all that they are accomplishing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Green, for that excellent report. And of course, are there comments from any of board members? Are there any comments?
Just congratulations to all of them. I mean, just amazing work. Just amazing work. Congratulations to all of them. And I'm really excited about the Legacy Museum. I think that however we can make it work for every student that comes through JPS to be able to experience it. And not only that, but our own museums that are here in the city as well, because our history is so important. I say it all the time. And I believe that our Jackson Public Schools history should be named in our Museum of History there in, you know, it really should if it's not highlighted. I know we have some of the other things I've seen, Russ College and other places that are highlighted there, but I believe Jackson Public Schools should be highlighted in that as well. So I just want to say whatever we can do to continue to preserve our history and allow our students to know what that history is all the way around. It just makes us better individuals, be able to work together better, and be able to create a better future for ourselves.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. And I'll say that. No, please go ahead. I was just going to respond to her comment.
I'm adding on to what she said here. It was such a touching presentation. It took me back to my school days at Tougaloo College. And I'm sure that Frank could echo a lot of that because he was much more involved in those kinds of things than I was. I was involved, but not to the extent I was a little scary girl. And of course he wasn't. But Mrs. Harris, I think you spearheaded this project.
Attorney Harris.
Attorney.
She's helping to make it happen.
Yes, you made it happen. You made it happen.
I want to give the lead to Ms. Buchanan, who kicked it off and started with CDC, and after that we worked in conjunction with the Assistant Superintendent of High Schools in pushing the information out to other schools so that they could apply for and be awarded the grants. But Ms. Buchanan started it all.
Okay. All right.
I just worked to approve the grievance.
We want to we want to thank you for the role that you played in making it happen right here in our district.
Amen.
Absolutely. Thank you all for your support.
Amazing. Yes, Dr. Green.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to pick up on one of the things that Mrs. Thompson was saying, and I was looking for Kim Smith, Dr. Smith. I think she stepped out. She stepped out. But and that's fine. We do take our scholars to the museums, the two museums right here, and I was just wondering if there's a particular grade level that we ensure that all are attending, or if there's a broader kind of approach to getting our scholars to the two museums. Yeah. So what you'll find is scholars are going at different ages and different grades and with different teachers and levels and things. And so we'll work on a more deliberate effort to make sure that everyone at some point goes. Because you're right, that's so important, and it's right here.
And also, I don't know if that student was able to make the connection of why those questions were being asked. I really would like for, it's a good trip and all that, but I think people need to understand, they need to really get a good concept of what that was and how it's happening now. How it's happening right now. It's not that elementary, but it is still happening to keep us from voting. Our rights to vote are so important that they fight tooth and nail to keep us from doing it on every end. And we need to be able to help them to understand and correlate. And our young people, the better they understand it, the more passion and fire they'll have to really push us forward, because just like she said, young people are the ones who push these movements for justice and righteousness. Just my take.
Thank you. Are there other comments?
I guess since I've been put on blast,
That's right.
I'm going to certainly ditto what Madam Chair said and Mrs. Thompson. And I just want to say, Honorable Superintendent, just Sunday night, I heard of a foundation, a major foundation in the country, has made possible for the Civil Rights Museum here 10 or more people to come at any time, pre-arranged for free. So that may also include transportation for scholars.
I'll connect with you.
So,
thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank each of you for your comments. Do we have any participants for public comments?
You do.
Okay. Before we get started, I just want to set the expectation for those speaking. You will have 3 minutes for your comments. The board believes the public's comment is very important. The board will listen and consider your comments, but we will not respond to this time. If there is an issue that you have not taken to leadership at a particular school or to district administration, we encourage you to do so.
Board members, the first one who signed up to address you this evening is Gwen Gardner, who would like to speak in support of the optimization plan.
Greetings to the JPS Board of Trustees and Dr. Green. I just want to share a few comments about the optimization plan. Our organization, I'm now currently the executive director for Axmore Jackson. I'm a former teacher and a former principal from Jackson Public Schools. And our organization over the last 8-9 years has been facilitating cultural learning walks. We gather parents and community members, and we would visit the schools just looking for specific things such as how do we feel welcome, what does the classroom environment look like, what does the decor of the building look like. And as we've gone through these things, toward the lateral part of the years, we have seen a decrease in student enrollment, and it's common across those buildings where we have seen unused classrooms and a lot of other spaces where there are no scholars or no activity going on. So we know that there is a decrease in enrollment, and we know it's partially because of charter schools, but I'm sure there are other factors as well. So to me, and I'm thinking in my rationale, if you have a building where it is less than 1/2 field capacity, then it does not seem economically feasibly to operate that building. So I could understand that it's very important that we kind of merge buildings so we can maximize the building, create those joyful learning environments for all scholars. And when we look at the teacher issue, the shortage of teachers, we know that the teaching profession is not a profession on the front burner for students in college right now. We know that we're always going to have an issue getting highly qualified teachers. If I reflect on the plan, what I see it doing is putting more highly qualified teachers in more buildings. Because when you merge those teachers in the new building, those scholars are going to have an access to someone who knows what they are doing, who's passionate about their doing, and who will make a difference in working with those scholars. I can also see in the plan where the district will be able to save money. That money can be channeled to create more innovative experiences and resources for all students and to support teachers. So I know with the vacancies and everything, when we look at the consolidation, we're looking for a win-win for all students. We know that by human nature, we do not like change. It takes us out of our comfort zone, and it puts us in a place where we don't know what the outcomes will be. But I think that this is a time when we look at this plan that all communities should come together, embrace this change, because I think it will truly have a tremendous positive impact on the continued success of the Jackson Public School District. Thank you for this opportunity.
Next is Lee Bernard, support of the optimization plan.
Yes, to the superintendent, to the school board, and to the citizenry of Jackson, Mississippi. Good evening. I stand in support of the optimization plan that has been put together by the superintendent and his board. I've gone to the one meeting and looked at the numbers, and it's something that we need to do. And again, if I didn't say, my name is Lee Bernard, and I did attend Jackson Public Schools. I spent 5 years at Johnson Elementary and 6 years at Lanier High School. And I was there the first day that Johnson opened back in 1957. But again, we just have to look at what's going on in Jackson. As an example, the school district at one time probably had around 33,000 students. Now we're talking about 18. And so therefore, we have to applaud you for making a decision with the people moving out of Jackson. And we have to take a look at the city leaders and the state leaders to help us work through some of these issues when it comes to losing population, because that's an issue. They have to look at the city to see how clean the city is. People have to pass by these burned down buildings on a daily basis to get to a school somewhere in the city of Jackson. But the school district students decline is real, with overall population decline in the city, state of Mississippi. They have to look at what's really going on. And I have to, again, support you, so I support the proposal. And I understand that the school board has to make a decision. And you have done that, and we appreciate you and applaud you for what you have done. But again, we have to get the city and the state involved in what's going on in the city of Jackson. Again, I thank you for all you do. Thank you.
Next is Joanne Mickens, support of the optimization plan.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to share my opinions about the plan. First of all, I am the Executive Director of Parents for Public Schools, and we are a public education advocacy organization that started in Jackson in 1989. So we've been around, I wasn't with them in 1989, but I have been with the organization since 2006. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize my colleague, Shawnee Cooley, our community liaison for Parents for Public Schools, who usually represents our organization in community meetings and and keeps her finger on the pulse of what's going on in Jackson. But before I was the ED of Parents for Public Schools, I was a JPS parent. I have 2 children who are 10 years apart. So that means I spent a whole lot of years in JPS. My son graduated from Murrah, go Mustangs, in 1997, and my daughter graduated from Murrah in 2007. So I know a bit about JPS. My children attended, I had to write it down, Davis, now Obama, Bailey, and Murrah, of course. And my daughter attended Power APAC, Chastain, and Murrah. And over the years, I've seen the evolution or maybe devolution of our district. When my son started school, there were over 33,000 students in the district. Today, they're under 19,000. And one of the things that we teach our parents in our parent engagement program is to make data-driven decisions. And if you look at the data, if you look at the decline in enrollment, if you look at the capacity that our buildings have and yet the number of students that are in them, when you look at the ages of some of the buildings, I mean, Eudora Welty attended Davis, and she's been gone a long time. So the fact is, we're still using some very old buildings, and but it appears to me that the optimization plan is a data-driven decision. It appears to me to be strategic, but also fiscally responsible. And as I think Ms. Gardner mentioned earlier, we don't like change, but we know it's inevitable, and we've got to recognize reality. And so I want to applaud Dr. Green and the school board for giving us a plan to shoot at. And that means that you have given it due consideration, you've done your due diligence, you've come up with a plan, but you're also giving us an opportunity to poke some holes in it. But the fact is, we need a plan, and when I was with Bell South, we didn't call it optimization, we called it re-engineering. But we need some re-engineering, and I think this optimization plan is a way for us to get there to make things better for our scholars and our entire community. Thank you.
Next is Reginald Thompson, support of the optimization plan.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Green. I'm Reginald Thompson. I am a Jackson native. My dad was an attendee of Brinkley High School, Brinkley Middle School, and Brinkley Elementary School, only school he ever went to. Graduated in 1965. I attended Watkins Elementary, Powell Junior High School, and Callaway High School, class of 93. I'm a local businessman. I've spent 37 of my 48 years in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm intentionally in Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson has always been a special place, but we're in transition. If you look at the data, and we're in a data-driven society, we've got to look at the numbers. In 1980, when I was still a little boy, we had 202,000 people in the city of Jackson. Now we're under 146,000. We've lost about 30% of the population in the city limits of Jackson over the last 43 years. We've gone from 30+ thousand students when I first moved back to Jackson almost 20 years ago to under 18,000. Those are the facts. Our tax base is decreasing. Our schools are distressed. I did the numbers. On the 13 schools that are slated to be closed, the average age is 63 years old. That means that in 1960, the average building that's slated to be closed was built, which means that's 2 years before James Meredith integrated the University of Mississippi. Right now, we have a chance to shift gears, to do the things that are in the best interest of the students and the community so that we can take the resources, the limited resources that we have, and make better use of them. When you look at the holding costs for these buildings, you look at the nuisance and the attraction of these buildings to bad things happening, that's not a good thing. We have enough resources when you take those buildings, optimize it, that hopefully we can see a whole new footprint at some point in the future for Jackson Public Schools. Because when you look at what learning looks like, I travel all the time. I see some billion-dollar bond issues when I'm out in Texas. I see the things that they're doing. There's not more potential anywhere in the world than it is in Jackson, Mississippi. We have to do our job, and you guys are doing the hard work of considering what has to be done from a fiscal standpoint, but we know it's very heartfelt. We know people are very heartfelt about the changes that have to happen. But I want to applaud you guys for looking at the numbers. I want to applaud you for making some hard decisions about what has to happen, because this is necessary to build the foundation of the next 50 or 60 years in Jackson Public Schools. So I'm in support of closing schools because it makes sense, and I know that you guys will make the right decision for the scholars and the community for Jackson, Mississippi. Thank you.
Finally is Tamara Butler-Washington, who wants to address you regarding the optimization plan.
Good evening to Dr. Green and the board. My name is Grace Butler-Washington, and I come to you this evening on two guards. I am the representative-elect for House District 69 and the parent of a fifth-year-old at Casey Elementary. I'm a product of Jackson Public Schools. I went to Whitfield Elementary, which is currently Pecan Park Elementary, Blackburn Middle School, and Jim Hill High School, where I was taught the best English and journalism by Barbara T. Hilliard. And I'm here with questions from my constituents regarding the plan, and to make sure that I have them correctly, one of the questions is, what is the plan to restore these schools that are closing in regards to them becoming an eyesore for the community or a financial burden on the district in regards to upkeep? When we say a financial burden, meaning are we still paying utilities? If someone breaks in the building, things of that nature, how's that going to affect the district and become an eyesore? The second question that was posed to me was in regards to the decrease in numbers of students. Has there been any information in regards to a restructuring of the organizational chart for the district to reflect the decrease in enrollment from the top to the bottom? I bring forward these questions and concerns from citizens of District 69, as well as myself as a parent of a student in Jackson Public Schools, to continue him to stay in Jackson Public Schools. Part of my District of 69, the citizens will be affected by some of the closures. So these are concerns that citizens have who live within that community, where our community is already plagued with crime, and we're trying to improve our city, our district, and make it a safe environment and keep the community in the aspects that it's already in to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just a reminder, community members who would like to make public comments should email their request to roswilliams@k12.ms.us no later than 4 p.m. the day of the meeting, or appear in person in the boardroom no later than 5:15 p.m. the day of the meeting. Thank you. Next, we have information-only items. Review of various policies for amendment, BBBCB, school board member visits to school, GADE, sick days, and GBEL, computer usage, data, and security. Yes.
Good evening again. The Office of the General Counsel is recommending that the Jackson Public School District's Board of Trustees review the following recommendations related to the amendment of the policies discussed below. For policy BBBCB, school board member visits to schools, the Office of the General Counsel is recommending amendment of this policy to allow an extension of time for board members to satisfy the required visits to schools due to health issues or other catastrophic events. The recommended amendment for policy GADE, sick days, the Office of the General Counsel is recommending an amendment of this policy to require employees to request the appropriate family and medical leave forms when they are out for a certain number of days due to an illness, to add a notification requirement for employees to alert their supervisors when they will need to take sick leave, and to add a provision for verification of sick leave usage when deemed necessary. And the final recommended amendment is for policy GBEL, computer usage, data, and security. And the Office of the General Counsel is recommending amendment of this policy to clarify what consists of district property, and to clarify that the district retains the right to repossess its property at any time deemed necessary. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Attorney Harris. Board members, are there any questions or comments? Thank you. Next, we have information action items. Approval of, and I believe this is Attorney Harris, General Counsel Larissa C. Harris. I'm about to call you the wrong name. Okay, agreement of the legacy, approval rather, of Legacy Scholars Grant, agreement with Equal Justice Initiative and the Jackson Public School District.
The Office of the General Counsel is recommending approval of the Legacy Scholars Grant Agreement between the Equal Justice Initiative and Jackson Public School District on behalf of the JPS Tougaloo Early College High School. JTEX has received a grant award from Equal Justice Initiative in the amount of $4,480 for 50 students and 5 chaperones to visit the Legacy Museum from Enslavement to Mass Incarceration and the National Memorial for Peace and Justice in Montgomery, Alabama on November the 9th, 2023.
Okay. Is there a motion to, thank you, Attorney Harris. Board members, are there any questions or comments? Questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve information about item A?
So moved.
Second.
Board Member Thompson has moved, and the motion has been seconded by Board Member McGuffey. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any, I'm sorry. Okay. There being none, the motion is approved.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, approval of agreement between the Community Foundation for Mississippi and the Jackson Public School District. Dr. Schomer, Grant Manager.
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Green. The administration recommends approval of the agreement between the Community Foundation for Mississippi and Jackson Public Schools. The NEA Foundation has awarded JPS a $66,000 grant to support the expansion of the JPS Community Schools project within the linear feeder pattern. As per the NEA Foundation grant agreement, the Community Foundation for Mississippi will serve as fiscal agent. The Community Foundation for Mississippi will receive funding, acting as fiscal sponsor for the NEA Foundation and Jackson Public Schools. This is our fourth grant from the NEA Foundation. The grant opportunity was made available through the NEA Foundation, which supports the community school strategy across the country. Community schools are a powerful and proven strategy for achieving the goal of educational equity. Using schools as hubs, community schools bring educators, families, policymakers, and community partners together to increase the resources, supports, and services available to children, families, and communities. Funding from the NEA Foundation will be applied to funding the full-time on-site community school coordinator at Lanier, who is responsible for facilitating the process of transforming the school into a full-service community school. Other grant funds will be applied to family engagement, health services, enrichment, supplies, equipment, travel, administrative fees, and so forth. The Community Foundation for Mississippi has been identified by the NEA Foundation to serve as fiscal agent for the project. The grant project supports district commitment to innovative teaching and learning and commitment for joyful learning environments. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Schumer. Board members, are there any questions or comments?
Madam Chair, just one. And it's,
yes.
How many, Mr. Schumer, how many previous from the MEA Foundation?
This is our fourth. We've had three other grants to help support the strategy.
All right.
For this same school project, though?
Correct. Correct.
Can we have that, something like that for other schools if they
yes. In fact, Dr. Green, it would probably be best if maybe we came back at another meeting where Dr. Merritt could address the strategy within the district.
Sure, yeah. Excuse me, just to kind of add to that.
Yep.
And to your question, so these are, they started as planning grants from the NEA Foundation, and although there's still some opportunity and expectation around planning, we've started to move into more of the organizing ourselves to provide more of the community supports for scholars.
Correct.
Also, we've gotten these grants from the community, from the NEA Foundation, but we received a larger grant from, and I'm spacing now.
That's okay.
We did receive a larger grant to support us in launching this work, and I believe we received that last school year. And so the team has been working hard to identify resources. The team is actually making some national friends and acclaim in our planning, our efforts, our even vision for community schools in our district. We wanted to start with a particular school, and then we went to a feeder pattern, and we want to be smart about scaling from there before we jump to other schools, because the goal here, and I'm still learning about, I Community schools have been in every district where I've been, but I'm still learning about what they are and what they could be. But the goal there is not simply to have someone to run to when the scholar has a specific need, clothing, health supports or something like that. The goal is to create a set of partnerships around the schools and district to where we're sitting together thinking through some of the larger issues that are not just about this one scholar needing some service provision. And that's something that we've got to really develop. We've got to really develop the partnership and the vision and the strategies, the structures that help us to be thinking beyond immediate needs that need to be addressed to how we work together for our schools, not just, community members supporting district needs,
right,
or family needs.
I totally get that, I just was very excited to hear when I sat in on the seminar a few weeks back at the School of Instruction that the PTSA, Jackson Council PTA put on, and they were talking about the whole community schools model and the potential of what, and I know that certain districts, certain schools and areas are kind of structured such that they need that extra kind of support.
Yes.
And could be in meaning like the Wingfield area, because ever since I've been there, it's like that family of
schools and communities and
in that area, it is different from the other ones, right? And I think that they could work a really good model like that to be support to themselves and the community around and the district, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And then finding and sourcing, like you just mentioned, federally and all of that, monies to be able to support a model that feeds that community.
Yes, ma'am.
Or fuels or supports that community.
Some of it is finding additional dollars, grant dollars or otherwise, to fund and support the long-term investments there. And some of it is simply finding folks who are doing the kind of work that we might need and just getting them more thoughtfully and intentionally connected to those schools and communities and families. My charge to the team has been, before we jump out there and make commitments across the city, let's do this right. Let's do this in a really thoughtful, intentional way, one that can be sustained and then scaled. I just refuse to have community schools in name, and then you go into the schools and you don't see the kind of connective tissue that you see in some places where we've visited. And other places where I've been. I've seen it work really, really well. And I've seen it where it's been kind of milquetoast, where you've got the name, maybe you've got someone whose job is to help make things happen, but it's not a part of the water, the air, the ground on which we walk. And that's what I want to see, what I think we need to see before we rush to scale.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. Are there other comments? Thank you for that clarity. Dr. Green, thank you, Mr. Schumer. Board members, are there any questions or comments? Any more questions or comments? Okay. Is there a motion to approve information action item B?
I so move.
Second.
Okay. It has been moved by Mr. Fierce and second by Ms. Thompson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. No nays. There being none, the motion is approved. Now, Mr. Burks, Chief Operating Officer, will present items C through F. Give you a whole lot to do.
Yes, ma'am. And I have been threatened to be swift. So,
okay.
Board, Superintendent Dr. Green, the audience, I have the opportunity to present. The administration recommends that the Board of Trustees approve the lease agreement between Jackson Public School District and Eric Baggett, located at 303 Wilmington Street, Jackson, Mississippi, identified as tax parcel 201-93-2 and 201-93-4. This request will allow the lessee to rent the 16th section property at the above listed location. This lease agreement is being executed for 30 years and will expire September 22nd, 2053. The property has been appraised as of January 29, 2020, with a fair market annual rent of $7,000, and the property will appraise every 10 years thereafter, with the next scheduled appraisal in September of 2030. They are operating a towing and salvage auto repair facility on this property and have been there before.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Burke. Board members, are there any questions or comments? Information action item C. We're going to take them all together. Okay. All right. Information item D. Mr. Burke.
Yes, Madam President, Vice President. The administration recommends that the board approve the monthly financial report for the month ending September 30th, 2023. The preliminary monthly financial report contains the statements of fund balance, budget status report, the bank reconciliation report, and the district maintenance cash flow report. Highlights of the report are as follows. In the statement of fund balance section of the report, this is for general funds, the funds 1,000 through 1999. For 2024, the beginning fund balance was $22,784,773 as of June 30th. Fiscal year 2024 fund balance as of 9/30 was $10 million. This is $3.9 million lower than our position in FY22 September's position. There was a question about this, so very briefly, the Hinds County, on September 7th, 2023, Hinds County suffered a computer system shutdown in response to a ransomware attack. Hinds County, as I will remind you, levies and collects and distributes our school ad valorem tax revenues. As a result of this attack, during the month of September, we did not receive any ad valorem receipts from the county. They have resumed operations as of Tuesday, September 26, and we fully expect that all ad valorem receipts will be submitted to the district as soon as possible. So that is that lack of those collections and that submission caused that is contributing to that sort of decline in our fund balance, just particularly in that month. Okay. Expenditures for that month also exceeded our revenues by approximately $6.2 million. On a brighter note, 16th section revenues, Fund 1840. Year to date, we've collected $241,000 of the budgeted amount. That's approximately 26% of what we budgeted to receive. Special revenue funds, 2,000. These are the funds 2,000 through 2999. And these are our federal funds, predominantly child nutrition. Continues to carry a healthy fund balance in Fund 2110. Our titles, our coronavirus response funds, which are our CARES and our ESSERs, IDEA funds, and other special revenues continue to show negative balances, but it's due to the timing of drawdowns. We are carrying about a $10.7 million negative, but we have submitted drawdowns in the amount of 9.2, so there is a $1.5 million gap. I will remind you and point you to that gap has closed tremendously. When we first started the year, we were carrying somewhere around 13, and we were only submitting about 5. We're really working hard to close the gap on those drawdowns and get a much better and stronger process around that. Budget status report section as of September 30th of 2023 in our main operations fund 1120, We have collected $25.1 million in revenues. We have expended $37.8 million, and there is a $12 million lag. In all other funds, we've collected $17.3 million. We have expended $40.3, and there's a $23.6 million lag between those two numbers. Bank reconciliations. As of August 31st, 2023, all district bank accounts are with board-approved depositories. The bank statements are reconciled appropriately and promptly. In the cash flow report section, on Fund 1120, as of September 30th, the ending cash balance was $3.7 million compared to our September 22 balance of $4.2. This is roughly a 13.4% decrease from the prior year's balance, and this is again due primarily to some lags between our expenses that we've paid and those the cash from those reimbursements. And then other management key performance indicators. Our overall revenue collections year to date are $3 million less than last year. Overall expenditures 5% greater than last year. Avalon collections are 2.2 less than last year, and again that's primarily due to the fact that we didn't collect any revenue from Avalon in this month. And then personnel and benefit costs year to date are $360,000 greater than last year. And that is the financial report for September 30th, 2023.
All right, thank you. Approval of the resolution authorizing and directing the issuance of a tax and revenue anticipation note, TAN, on behalf of Jackson Public School System in the amount of $20 million.
Yeah, not billion. I wish.
Yeah, help me with these numbers.
Million, yes.
For fiscal year 2023 through 2024. Mr. Burke.
Yes, ma'am. The administration recommends the approval of the resolution authorizing and directing the issuance of a tax and revenue anticipation note, otherwise known as a TAN, in the amount of $20 million for fiscal year 23-24. The issuance of this TAN is needed to finance the district's current operations until Avalon tax revenue is received. These notes are issued in accordance with Section 3759-37 of the Mississippi Code, as annotated 1972. The district's payroll and accounts payable disbursements exceed the Avalon and Mississippi Adequate Education Programs, our MAAP revenue collections from May through December. This is typical, and in our district, approximately 85% of our Avalon collections are received between January and May. The TAN provides the district with the cash flow necessary for the months of November to January for daily operations. Cash flow requirements are forecast to determine the size of the TAN. So in your financial report, you will see us track. We track monthly. Our cash flow is monitored very, very closely, and this $20 million infusion helps us until we get our major Avalon collections in January.
Okay. Okay, are there questions or comments? I'm sorry. Approval of Jackson Public School District's Emergency Management Plan.
Yes, ma'am. At this time, I want to take the opportunity to introduce our new Director of Emergency Management. He is going to, I know my name is down there, but I'm going to give him the opportunity to come and greet the board and present this item.
Okay.
Very, very quickly.
All right.
Mr. Mark Young.
Emergency Management person.
Let's welcome our new team member. Newish.
Dr. Green and to the board, good evening. This is the recommendation and action for the administration to the board approval for the revision of 2023-24 Jackson Public School District Emergency Operation Plan, known as the EOP. The rationale or the justification, annually revising and updating the emergency operation plan for the district is essential to secure that we are well prepared for evolving challenges and to meet regulatory requirement. The new look, the layout, along with content changes, will help us enhance the clarity, accessibility, effectiveness of the plan, ultimately contributing to a safety and well-being of our school district. The changes from 2022 to 23 to 2023 to 24 include the following. A table of content has been included for improved document navigation. Number 2, page numbers have been added. Number 3, on page 3, the Jackson Public School Emergency Management Department will now conduct annual training for school employees on the EOP. Pages 6 and 7, the emergency levels have been revised. Number 5, page 11, features for a replacement of the security assessment and vulnerabilities is now with the Threat Hazard Identification Risk Assessment, known as the THIRA. On page 17, number 6, the terminology, EOC and IC Commander, in the response flow chart has been updated to now the Emergency Management Director and Campus Enforcement Chief. Number 7, pages 90 through 111 have been removed due to redundancy. Are we ready to address an active shooter event in our school? While schools have revised and updated their individual school level crisis plan, we are better, as I can say, better prepared across the district, and with our other partners, our other agencies, we can coordinate their response to any crisis. Have we conducted the necessary training to prepare for such an event? Yes. Our school principals have conducted the required drills as called for their crisis response plan, and they have adequately prepared to respond. Again, additional training and coordination is needed at the district and the community levels. If there is such an event, who will respond to our schools when they call? In the event of a active school shooter event, calls are routed to 911. 911 will then route that to Jackson Public School District Campus Enforcement Dispatcher. However, all law enforcement agencies will respond. Who will be in charge of the situation? And that depends merely on the circumstances. We always say who arrives first. In any instance, the highest ranking responding officer will assume charge until the chief of campus enforcement arrives. Those are the revisions and the also questions answered to the EOP for 2023-2024.
Thank you for the reports of Mr. Burks. Board members and yes. Are there any questions or comments on any portion of that report? Chief Operation Officer. Is there a motion to approve?
Actually, before we get there, I do have a couple of quick questions just on D, in particular the financial reports. So, Mr. Burke.
Yes, sir.
I just want to touch back on something you mentioned and walked through in response to the board questions, but I want to make sure I understand kind of what's underneath some of those issues. On the ad valorem taxes, all right, I'm correct in saying we expect nothing changed because of that ransomware attack in our overall expectations for our receipts on ad valorem collections, correct?
Correct.
It's just a lag.
Yes.
All right.
They were unable. They shut down and they were not able to do business.
The second question I have is on the expenditure side. Could you shed some light on what the drivers were? I mean, it could be as simple as if you told me expenditures were higher because we had to buy more AC units, I would believe you.
Yes.
But what's driving that?
So typically our expenditures in the beginning of the year lag behind revenues.
Yep.
That's because we get MAP monthly, we get ad valorem in small trickles. through probably December, January is when people pay taxes. But we are working really, really hard to spend our ESSER funds, bid all these projects. We've got all of those things going, and we're having to pay for that in order to meet the aggressive timeline that we have. So that is going to be our lived experience probably well into the end of this fiscal year, just trying to get those projects done and paid for. And that's just on that side, and then the normal operational stuff.
So is it those project timelines that's driving that roughly $2 million increase in expenditures?
Yes, I mean, because we're trying to be very aggressive in getting those projects bid out and completed.
Okay, last thing for me, it is not a question. I want to applaud the process improvements. I work in a business that has to review pro formas, send bills out, collect, and that timeline, the shorter we get that timeline, the better off we all are, right? Yes. And so I just want to acknowledge the work that y'all have done, even since I joined this board, in truncating that amount of time between expense and submission and reimbursement, right? That is a complicated process, and it makes a huge difference to, like you said, to our operational flexibility month to month. So I just want to applaud the work that's been done on the CARES and ESSER and all of those projects that where we got to pay it out and then we got to get it back in.
And I appreciate you pointing that out and appreciate that accolade. But I will share that with Dr. Scott is here. She works really hard. Her and her federal programs team. I really push them, and they really, there's a lot that goes along with this. It's not just an in-house operation. I mean, there's the Department of Education, because this is reimbursement. So them adopting that philosophy, let's get it done as quickly as we can, it's been great to work with them, and they do a great job. And then there's the rest of my people who are never here.
Right. Yeah. They're all great.
I just want to piggyback and say that is really good, and it was really good to even for community that was really wondering, like, why y'all not spending the money, for them to understand that this is a reimbursement process. Like, we have to have the money in order to get the things, and then we get being reimbursed, so there's a process, and this stuff doesn't happen magically. So, but y'all make it look like it does.
Well, part of it is, I mean, Dr. Green has done a great job of understanding, and you as a board have done a great job of understanding and allowing me to say that, hey, we want the money, but it's not really money until we spend it. We have to have the money in-house to carry those expenditures until we get those reimbursements. And I don't think the general public typically understands when JPS is awarded something from the federal government, that money, that's a promise to pay. It's not money that's dropped into our bank accounts.
Right. Not sitting in your coffeers.
Right.
Yeah.
And are there other questions, comments?
I just want to echo some of what you're saying there and put a finer point on it. And so you've got, as one of the items here, this request for approval for the tax anticipation note. Well, in normal times, we need that. Yes. Because, again, we don't get all of our money at the start of the year. We get it trickled over the months and heavies up in January, I believe, January and February from taxes. And so in normal times, we need that tax anticipation note to help ease our cash flow so that we can make payroll and we can pay the bills and we can do some of the repairs and things. That's in normal times. Well, with the additional ESSER funds that we're so pleased to have, I want to be real clear, we're thankful to have those, but it further stretches and stresses our budget because we've got to first expend that money and pay for it and then get reimbursed. And so all of the money that's churning out, and I really do thank Mr. Burke and Dr. Scott and all of the other team members who have a hand in approving the invoices when they come in and getting them submitted and up for payment and submitted to MDE. All of that is a ton of work in order to try to collapse the time of invoicing and reimbursement, but also with this other piece about our cash flow in mind. We've got to constantly monitor that so that we can make payroll, so that we can pay the light bills and all of these other things. And so this, while it's a great benefit to have those additional dollars, and it's a lot of money. It's also a huge stress on our budget, and the team is having to watch that with eagle eyes to make sure we don't get below the levels that we need to so that we can operate month to month. And so did want to just further stress how important that piece is, especially in these times.
So I've got one more. I'm so sorry, Ms. Hogan.
No, go on.
I've got one more set of questions that really has to do with the EOP. And this is sort of educational for me, trying to play catch up a little bit. Do we have, what is the district's sort of notification mechanisms? Like I see in there that notice will be sent out, but I'm wondering what are the actual mechanisms that go out to parents, for example, if there's a crisis at a particular school. So the only thing I can do is analogize it to what I know, which is what my office does, right? We've got some text thing that hits my computer and my phone, and it like taps me on the shoulder, and something else, like it's a program called Stop It, and so it just pops up, right? So I'm wondering what the actual notification mechanisms we have, how much redundancy is built into those. That's thing one. The second question that I have is just, and I think this is a little bit what the question was touching on about who's in charge. How much work have we done trying to wrap our arms around the, I'll say, unique situation with law enforcement in the city of Jackson between campus enforcement, JPD, Cap Police, Hinds County, the Sheriff's Department is certainly the closest responder for some of our schools. And so if we could talk a little bit about that, just so I understand what our interplay is on the responders.
So to the first one, we do use school status, which is both email and text, and I say both, and phone call. So there's a way to target communications just to the school community, to the parents of a particular school community, and or to everyone, just depending on the circumstances of the event. Folks also have text groups. Principals will often have those, or will use phone chains, because not everyone gets texts, and so there are a few kind of redundancies around the communications. Sometimes Facebook will be used, but typically it's more to quell some of the background noise about what's happening when it's ill-informed or people guessing or what have you, just to kind of calm people down. So that's to the first. To the second point, and I would absolutely say that there's more work to be done here, especially as the landscape and the partners continues to change with the Capitol Police and with others. I was reminded that we've actually got several law enforcement entities or agencies in this area, and frankly, any of them could show up if an all call goes out on 911. If there's an active shooter, you'll likely have everybody in the area to show up, and that is, of course, campus enforcement. That's also Jackson Police Department, Capitol Police. You've got the Sheriff's Office, Hinds County. You've got Highway Patrol. Isn't it Wildlife? Fisheries.
Yeah, everybody's coming.
Yes, and so all of the agencies. As I've understood it, and we've got Chief in the room, but I've asked this of Chief a few times, and of the folks at JPD as well, just because I want to reiterate and make sure that I'm getting it clear. When the call goes out and there's something like that happens, it's everybody come down, everybody show up, because you don't know how many people, or you just don't know all of those things. Everybody who can responds. The first one on the scene, the first sworn officer on the scene, is expected to take some action. So if there's something that is occurring that you see and needs some action, then they take action, and that occurs until the ranking member of, and in this case it would be campus enforcement, the ranking member of campus enforcement, always in conjunction with partners, ranking partners from the other agencies. But there's an understanding, and maybe it's in law policy and the training or what have you amongst sworn officers. But if you get there, you gotta you're first at bat. And then, of course, if it's something that they would need to wait on backup, they'll do that. But there is a kind of a way that they fall into a groove together as they show up. Okay, whose jurisdiction is this? It's a JPS jurisdiction. We don't play those games with regard to safety, and so we want to work in partnership with all the resources that are available here. FBI, I didn't mention them, FBI or MBI, Mississippi, could also show up, and depending on the incident, it might make sense that they take command. And so these are things that the leadership will determine in the moment based on the issue and what resources we have there. Unfortunately, it's not it's not always a if this then that.
Yeah.
But there are some proven, as I understand, and of course I'm not a sworn officer, there's some proven and typical behaviors when it comes to those sorts of things, so that folks aren't tripping over one another and we're not all sitting back waiting on somebody else to take action. Did I do that justice, Chief? Okay.
You did.
All right. I've been listening.
I appreciate it. Ms. Hilliard, thank you for indulging me.
I just want to add again, I'm still waiting on an update from our safety people.
Yes.
From the students concerned when they did their walkthrough of the schools and the classroom having the book and the teacher maybe taking the book and all of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like what happens? How do they secure themselves in the room? You know what I mean? The teacher's safety book.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do y'all remember that?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
Can we figure out when we can make that happen and
Yes,
get back? All right. Ms. Williams, you'll make sure that we get it scheduled on a board meeting.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve items C through F?
Motion.
Second.
It has been moved by Mr. McGuffey and seconded by Ms. Thompson to approve items C through F. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No nays. There being none, the motion is approved. Next, we have the consent agenda items for finance. All the consent agenda items have been reviewed by the board previously, and we have had an opportunity to ask questions of the administration. Are there any further questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items? Finance.
So moved. Second.
It has been moved by Mr. Figures and seconded by Ms. Thompson to approve items, the consent agenda finance items. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, there being none, the motion is approved. Next, we have the consent agenda items, personnel. All the consent agenda items have been reviewed by the board previously, and we have had an opportunity to ask questions of the administration. If there are no further questions, if not, board members, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda personnel? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Mr. McGuffey and seconded by Ms. Thompson.
Moved by Ms.
Ms. Thompson?
Second.
You okay, second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, there being no nays, the motion is approved. Is there a consideration to hold an executive session? Thank you. If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, it has been moved by Ms. Thompson and seconded by Ms. McGuffey. All in favor?
Aye. Very in favor.
Trying to get